Hey guys, so in this video we are going to see how to make the turtles carry the frog when the frog jumps on top of them. And this is basically going to be the same behavior for the logs that we will implement next. Now, a couple things. First, I did some refactoring to the code that we have so far, so I'm going to go over that first, just to explain to you guys what I did and why. And the second thing is that I've been trying to keep the videos under 20 minutes, and I'm not sure probably I will not be able to make it on this video. I think this is the most complex thing that we are going to make in this game, but I'll try to keep it at a minimum. So, I mean, just um, like try to make it to the end. So let's see. First thing, the refactoring that I've been doing. So I changed a few things. I changed the name of the behaviors. I had like player collision and player movement. I changed frog collision and frog movement. This is not doesn't have like any reason, any special reason. I just thought like it made more sense because I have a turtle and a frog and the NPC, so it made more sense. Now other let me see, other refactor that I did. Okay, this was a big refactor that I did. Before we were using the input events, so we were using an input keyboard event, something like this, when control is pressed, something like this, and I decided to refactor this into this structure. So what I'm doing here is that I have a single place, because I didn't like what we had before. We were repeating a lot of code, so we were repeating basically all this code right here. So pointing the actor to a certain direction, switching the animation, switching to frame, changing the X or the Y position. And since I was going to add a few more blocks to this because of what we are going to implement, I decided that I want to have a single place where we move the frog in any direction. So I ended up creating a new block called move, which moves self, in this case the actor, by an offset on the x-axis and an offset on the y, and points towards rotation degree. And basically what I'm doing, I have a bunch of other blocks that pass the right parameters to this one and according to the where it is moving. So if it's moving up, the offset in the x is going to be 0, the y is going to be 32, minus 32, and the rotation degree is going to be 0. Stuff like that. So for example, I have all these 4 blocks here that you can see, and now I have the move up block, which calls the other one, the first one that I just showed you, and with the right parameter. So if I'm moving up, I'm going to move self by 0 on the x, by offset times -1. Offset is like the attribute where we have the default value that when we are moving the frog, which is 32. So here I'm multiplying by -1 to make it minus 32 and point towards 0. If I'm moving down, then I'm going to move y by offset and point towards 180. And the same for the left and for the right. And so I have a single place where I do the actual code to move the actor. Then I have these 4 blocks that just pass the right parameters. And then I have a single place where I deal with all the movement, where I just use the more simpler blocks. So I have the move up, move down, move left, and move right. I think this is simpler in a way. I mean, we have a single place where we have all the code about moving. So every time we want to add something, when we move the frog, we have a single place that we need to update. And the blocks that I create in the middle, like the move up, move down, move left and right, is just like to keep it simple on this screen. This is like the main one, and I wanted to keep it simple. I didn't want to be worried about with all these parameters here. So it looks a lot simpler, and we can read it a lot better when we can just read, okay, move up, move down, move left, move right. And here, so I ended the event, the update event, which is running on loop on every frame, and I'm detecting the input. So if up was pressed, and I added the conditions that we had before in terms of the position. In this case, if it's on any entrance, it's moving up. If down was pressed and the Y position is left and 448, moving down, and stuff like that. So this was like a big refactor that I did to the frog movement. I prefer to work in this way, and in a way, this would be something that I would do if I was actually programming with a programming language, I would do something like this. I'd have like a function that deals with the movement, and then I'll just call, okay, move up, move down, move left, move right, and I wouldn't be dealing with all the movement code on several places. So this was the first refactor that I did, and the other one was in the frog collision, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, frog collision. We were destroying the actor on the enemy collision. So when the actor hit an enemy, it would destroy. And I ended up doing the same logic that I did before with movement. So I created a generic, no, not generic, I cannot call it generic, a more global function that deals with all the destroying behavior of the actor, which is this one, the destroy. And this one accepts the animation that is going to play and the animation duration. And this is because now that we are going to drown the frog, when the frog touches the water, it has a specific animation that is a drowning animation. So now when we are killing the frog, we have two different types of animations. So I needed a way to kill the frog and also say what is the animation that is going to play. So this is the block that does that. And I keep all the rest as we had, but instead of using static values like, okay, play the die animation with 0.8 seconds, I'm using these parameters that I pass into the block. And then I have two other blocks, one for the kill and one for the drown. So on the kill, I say, okay, destroy self, playing the die animation for 0.8, and for the drown, play drown animation for 0.6. And we are going to create the drown animation in just a bit. And then when I'm killing the frog, I'm just calling these specific blocks. So kill, and in this case, this is what we are going to implement, just drown. And it's simpler to work with this on the rest of the code. So these were the two refactors that I done to the code. And now let's see how to add the rest. So what we are going to do here is making the turtles, transporting the player when the frog jumps on top of the turtles. But before that, we need to also kill the frog when the frog touches the water, because we are not doing that. So it took me some time to see the best way to do this, because we have the water. Let me show you. Yes, I think I have it here. Yeah, so we have the water here on the bottom of everything, and we're going to have like the turtles and the logs. Let me see, yeah, and the logs just passing by. And we want to detect the collision with the water and with the turtles and with the logs and everything. But the water should be on the bottom, and then we have the turtles and the logs on the top. So we want to detect the collision with this actor and also with the water. Initially, I tried to use regions. Regions are, I think I told you, I think I talked about it before. I tried to use regions for the entrances, but I tried to use it again here, but it didn't work once again. But regions are basically areas that you can draw on the scene, and then you will have an event that tells you when the actor enters or exits that region. So you can define an area, and then you have an event that says, okay, the actor is inside that region or is outside that region. And I tried to do that for the water, but then it was difficult to synchronize in the way the collisions between the region and the turtles. I was not able to okay, I want to first check if the player is inside on top of a turtle, and only then to check if it's on the water. But it was like as soon as the player entered this area, he didn't care about the turtles or anything else. It was already inside the water, and it was drowning the frog. So I ended up changing this, and now what I ended up doing was creating an actor just for the water. So you can see here that I created, let me see, where is it? Water. It's this one. So I created like a rectangle with the size of the water, and I added as an actor in our project. So if you go here to the actor type, you can see that now I have an actor with the water, which basically has an image with the size of this, which is like 448 by 160, if I'm not mistaken. I imported the image, and here it is important. So I created a new group only for the water, because the water is going to kill the frog, but it's not the same as the enemies because we already have an event for the enemies. Of course, we could, inside of the event for the enemies, we could check, okay, is it a car or is it a water, and do different stuff. But I prefer to create a new group and put the water there, and then I can just like detect the collision with the water in separate way from the enemy. So I created a new group, the water, that collides only with the players. And in the collision, I have like the collision bounds occupying the whole water. And this is an important selection that we need to make, is that making the water a sensor. And a sensor is basically, it detects the collision, it makes this actor detect the collision, but it's not solid for the actor that it's colliding with it. So it means that the player will not bump into the water, like if it was a wall or something like that. So it can just walks inside the water, but we have events for the collision. So we can say, okay, the actor is colliding with the water, but it's not bumping into that actor. So I created the water. Let me see. I created the water, and initially I added the water inside the scene, but I ended up going to the game manager and creating the actor like everything else. So the scene only have the tiles, and all the actors and everything I'm creating by code on the game manager. So when the game manager is created, I'm creating here the water at 0.96, and 0.96 is 0 on the X because it starts on the left edge of the screen, and 96 because it starts on the fourth line from the top. And I'm sending it to the back. I'm not entirely sure how this works, the front, middle, and back. It seems like layers, but I'm not sure if they are layers, to be honest. But just to make sure that I wanted the water to be like on the last layer, I send it to the back. I don't know if it is actually doing anything or not, but it is working. So I'm going to assume that it is working as expected. And so we have the water. And now on the frog collision, and this behavior is going to deal with all the collisions of the frog, I added a new event that when self hits a water, in this case actually, now that I'm thinking, I didn't need to add the water to a specific group, maybe because I'm using the event where I detect the collision with an actor of type and not a member of group. But either way, it's on a specific group. When the actor hits water actor type, what I'm doing here is, initially what I was doing is that we drown the self. Oh, and now we need to create, before that, I need to show you how to create the animation for the drowning. So let's go here to the frog, and we have the die, and we have here the drown. Basically, the drown animation is made up of these 3 frames. And I imported animation, I adjusted the collisions, and the properties, it's on the player, so we don't need to change anything. Yeah, we don't need to change anything else from this one. So it's just importing the animation draw. And on the collision, so I'm drowning the self, which means drown plays drown animation for 0.6. 0.6 has 3 frames. I change the duration of each frame to 200 milliseconds. And so basically it's going to run all this, and it's going to kill the self, and it's going to say the game manager to spawn the player again. So this is exactly what we were doing for the enemies in a way, but on the enemies we are killing the self by playing the die animation, and on the water collision we are drowning the self by playing the drown animation. And okay, so let's just try, let me just show you. And you're going to see that the frog is not starting from the beginning, it's already starting on the middle, that middle lane that we have between the traffic and the water, because it's easier to test only that. Oh, and another thing, you can see like these, you can see the collision bounds of each one of the actors. And this was because I was trying to understand, we have a few bugs, I can tell you already, we have a few bugs, and I was trying to understand the collisions, how they were happening. To activate this, which is really useful to understand if the actors are really colliding or not, you can come here to the run and enable debug drawing. And when you do this, you can see the collision bounds of each actor. And now if I touch the water, the frog just drowns. And it's ignoring the turtles, as you see. It drowns immediately. And why is this happening? Because I already have the code to detect the turtles. But what's happening is that this event that when a self hits a water or an actor is constantly running. I mean, as long as the actor is colliding or hitting the other one, that event is being called. So it means that we are calling this a lot of times. In this case, we are only calling one time because we kill the actor and it is removed. But if we let the actor, we let the actor on top of the water, it would be calling the actor a bunch of times. Actually, I can show you that because I haven't talked about this and I've been using it a lot. I changed the preview of the game for a Flash player. I was using HTML5, and this is because we have a log viewer here. And a log viewer allows us to see some messages from the game when we are running the game, and we can also print our own messages. And by using this block here on debug, on the flow debug, which is called print, and let me show you. So instead of drowning, I can say print in water. And now when we test the game, when the actor is colliding with the water actor, we are going to see here the message hit water. I hope so. Yes, in water. You can see it's being called a lot of times. This is what I was telling you. As long as the actor is on top of the water, it's calling this function a lot of times. So you can see it here. This is a really good way to debug. So when you are not sure if some block is being called or why it is not working, you can always put like a print and say, okay, the code is reaching here, and if it's not reaching, you need to understand and go back until you have like a print that is actually working. This only works, at least from my experience, this only works with a Flash player. So on HTML5, I wasn't able to see the logs. So that's why I changed it. And okay, I'm gonna take this, drown. Okay, so now we can move the frog touches the water, and it drowns, basically. So now what we need to do is that we need to detect the collision between the frog and the turtle. And if a frog is on top of a turtle, it shouldn't drown. And what happens here also is that, at least my assumption at the beginning was that if the frog jumps on top of a turtle, and if the turtle is on a layer on above the water, then the collision of the frog would be only with the turtle and not with the water. But it doesn't work that way. So basically what this means is that as long as the frog is on top of a turtle and on top of the water, it's going to be colliding with both. So what we need to do here is to detect the collision with the turtle, and when that happens, we need to have a flag that says, okay, the frog is on top of a turtle. And so if the frog is on top of a turtle, then it shouldn't drown. That's what we are going to do. So on transport, I created a new event, what I call on transport collision, which is called when the actor hits an actor of type transport. And transport is, I don't know if I've created before on the last video, I don't remember, but it's a collision group. So I created a collision group called transport that collides with the players, and this collision group is going to be used, and here I need a collision group because it's going to be used both for the turtles and the logs. So because both of them can transport the player along the river. So let me go back for collision. No, where was I? Okay, on transport collision. So I created a new event that is called when the actor hits an actor of the transport group, in this case the turtles. And what I'm doing here is enabling that flag. And that flag is an attribute that I created called is being carried like it's being transported. And I added this flag not on the frog collision because, at least for me, it didn't make sense. The collision is only for detecting collisions and killing the player. So if the player is being carried or not is more, it seems something more about the movement. So if I'm moving the player or if the player is being carried, so it's being moved by someone else. So I ended up creating this attribute on the frog movement. So if you go here to the frog movement, on the attributes, I created a new attribute. Let me just put this up. I created a new attribute called is being carried. So what I'm doing here on the frog collision is that when the frog hits a turtle, I'm changing the is being carried to true. So, sorry, for self, I'm setting is being carried to true for the behavior frog movement. And I'm doing this because then on the water collision, what I can do is that I will only drown the self if the frog is not being carried, which means that I'll only drown the frog if the variable is being carried is false. So as soon as the frog jumps on top of a turtle, the turtle changes the is being carried to true, and then when it detects a collision with the water, that attribute is already true, and so it doesn't drown the frog. That's what we are doing. And this is it about preventing the frog from drowning when it's on top of a turtle. But then what happens is that we don't have an easy way to see when the frog stops being on top of a turtle, because we have an event that says, okay, the frog hit a turtle, basically, or the frog hit an actor, but we don't have an event that says, okay, the frog stopped hitting a certain actor. We don't have that. So the way that I did to solve this, to work around that, was that each time we move, the frog jumps on top of a turtle. When it jumps on top of a turtle, the is being carried becomes true. Now we need a way to set this being carried to false. So when does the frog get out of the turtle? And basically, we can the only time that the frog is going to get out of the turtle is when we move the frog, because even when the frog is on top of the turtle, we can move the frog along the several turtles. So basically, what I end up doing was on the frog movement, and that's why this whole refactor was because of this. Basically, on the move event, on the frog movement behavior, I'm setting is being carried to false. So frog jumps on top of the turtle, we set is being carried to true, and as soon as we move the frog, it doesn't matter where, it doesn't matter if it's on to top of the other turtle, or if it's back to land, or if it's to the water, we set is being carried to false. And why is that? Because it doesn't matter, because even if we move the frog to the top of the other turtle, since the collision event is constantly running, we move the frog, we say that is being carried is equal to false, but as soon as it lands on top of the other turtle, this being carried is equal to true again. And so it keeps working. And yeah, this is it. On transport collision, we set to true, and when we move, we set it to false. Oh, and another thing. I haven't talked about how we are actually carrying the frog with the turtles. And it's pretty simple. We are giving the illusion that the frog is being carried with the turtles by basically changing the speed of the frog. So when the frog jumps on top of the turtle, here in this event, we set the x speed of the frog to be equal to the x speed of the actor that you just collided. So since the frog is colliding with the turtle, what we are doing, we are setting the speed of the frog to be equal to the turtle. And so it looks like they are moving one on top of the other. That is basically it. And once again, we end up transporting the frog on top of the turtle when we move the frog. So when we move the frog, we reset the x speed of the frog to 0. Because then we move the frog, but once again, we reset the speed, we say that is being carried is equal to false, but if the frog jumps to the top of another turtle, then everything starts again from the beginning, and it continues working. But if the frog jumps to the water, for example, so it doesn't touch any other turtle, what's going to happen is that is being carried is equal to false, it's going to stop moving, and the water collision is going to run, and this is being carried is false, which says that it's going to enter inside this if condition, and it's going to drown the frog. And yes, I think this is it. So set speed, sorry, I need to check my notes because it was a lot. Reset speed, change being carried to false. Yes. Oh, no, I'm still missing one thing. Let me just show you. And we have some bugs, like I told you before. I'm going to close this one. And one thing that is happening is that the first time that I jump on top of a turtle, it usually drowns. And I don't know why. So when I jump again, we don't have a problem. So you can see I can move on top of the turtles. Now we have this problem as well, because we can jump between groups of turtles, and this was not supposed to happen. Here I can, but if I get like on the end of the turtle, I can jump to the other one sometimes. This is because the collision are actually, the turtle is actually colliding with the frog is actually colliding with the other turtle, and so it's on top of the other turtle. I'll still need to figure out a way to solve this. And I think that probably is going to be like, instead of having the individual turtles, having groups of turtles. That will probably solve it, but I don't want to go into it right now, so I'll see later on the next videos, because I'm still not sure that if this is going to work with the frog entering the houses on the top, but we'll see. So right now it's going to stay like this. And now, so we can jump on top of the turtles, we can get out, we can jump to the water and drown, and now we have this animation of the turtles. We also want this, the diving turtle. So what we want is that if the frog is on top of a turtle that's going to dive, when the turtle actually dives and it's completely underwater, the frog it stops being carried and it touches the water and it also dives. So what I'm doing here is let me see. So we have the turtle, and the turtle is the one that is where we are playing the animation, the diving animation. And what I'm doing here is that when we switch the animation to the underwater, I'm changing the is being carried to also to false. So it's exactly the same that we are doing when we move the frog. When the animation of the frog, of the turtle, is equal to underwater, I'm changing this being carried to false. And so being carried to false collides with the water and the frog drowns. Now, the only question here is that from the frog collision and the frog movement, we can easily access the attribute is being carried, because both of the behaviors are on the same actor. So we have an easy way to access this behavior, because we just need to call self, and self is the actor where the behavior is applied to. But from the turtle, we don't have an easy way to access this being carried for the behavior frog movement, because we don't have an access to the frog actor. So what I ended up doing, you can see like we have a player here. So I created an attribute called player, which is of type actor. It could be here, which is of type actor. And what I'm doing is, after creating the turtles, which is I'm doing on the game manager, I create everything, I create the turtles here, I create the player, and after all this, I go for each actor of type turtle. So I go to each turtle that was created, and I'm setting the player attribute to the last created actor. And the last created actor is exactly the player that we created before, which is because it is the last actor that we are creating. So in this, I'm saving a reference to the frog actor on each turtle, and so each turtle can just communicate with the frog. So each turtle then uses for player, the actor player, which in this case has a reference to the frog, and its setting is being carried to false. So this was the workaround to communicate between the turtle and the frog actor. And this is it. Oh, I also, no, this is not it. I also changed the collisions, but it didn't solve, because that problem that we are still having, where the frog jumps and can jump from one group to the other, I thought, okay, maybe the collision bounds of the frog and the turtles are really big, and that's why this is happening. So I ended up coming here to the frog. You can see here in the idle, you can see the collision bounds are smaller on the move as well. On the move is actually, I did the same as in the idle. And also for the turtles, I ended up decreasing the collision bounds on the default animation of the turtles. So you can see like the player, like I'm not counting with the head and the tail, so only with the shell. Here, and I don't know if I change this one, yeah, this one as well, but it didn't solve completely the problem. So I still need to check if I'm going to change that later. One of the ways that I thought about changing it is like when the frog jumps on top of a turtle, I could just position the frog exactly in the middle of the turtle. So in this way, when it jumps out of the last turtle, it's going to jump 32 pixels. It's going to end in the water. But it's really strange because if you jump on the middle of two turtles, and the frog is going to like snap to one, to the turtle on the left or on the right, and it's really really strange. And I don't remember the original game being like that, and even in the one that I tried online, it's not working like that. So we'll see how we are going to solve this. And this is it. I mean, transporting the frog on top of the turtles. It's this code. And the next one that I'm going to implement is going to be transporting the frog on top of the logs. So I'm going to implement, create these logs here. So we have three types of logs. I'm going to create the logs. The movement, we already have it. It's NPC movement. And even the collision, and the transporting, it's already done, because the logs, we don't need to worry about going underwater or stuff like that. So probably it's just like creating the logs, adding them to the collision group of the transport collision group, and that's it, I think, but we'll see. So thank you. I'll see you on the next video.